Randomizers in music, how to use them and why. I mean, you want to ask, why should I use randomizers in my music? Well, I do. I use randomizers in some of my tracks, not in every track, not every time, not in every project, but sometimes. And when I use randomizers, I find them quite helpful. And that's what I want to show you right now in this video, so that you will learn that randomizers by default are not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all, and not as bad as AI, right? I don't know if AI is a bad thing, but better let's discuss that in another video. So this is one of my tracks I'm working on right now, and now listen to the following sequencer part. It's randomized, but fits perfectly. You know, I totally could write such a sequencer part myself and I play it, no problem, but I tend to do the same movements and melodies when I create such sequencer parts. So I decided to give away my control to this randomizer and let the randomizer come up with cool ideas. I use it as an inspiration and I like what I hear, and I'll show you right now how you can do that, in this case here in Cubase. It's very simple. Just listen to the sequencer part again. And while you hear many different notes, you can see that it's always the same note, like your 16th note, always in G, and with the exception of the A sharp here. And the point is, you can do whatever you want. I could delete some notes if I want, but I wanted to have this ongoing melody line. But the point is that you only have one note here. In this case, it's even the root note, the G. And the randomizer takes these notes as a source. And this is how you actually set up the randomizer. It's in the inspector, in the left area here. If you don't see that, use this button to show and hide the inspector. And we go to MIDI inserts. And if you don't see that, look here in the setup inspector section. And you can mark all the stuff you need. So, MIDI inserts, and you can see that I have selected the MIDI Modifiers here, and I set up the scale. You can't read it very good, I'm sorry. It's a bit small, needs a little bit of redesign, but it doesn't matter. I set it up to G minor, because the song is in G minor, makes sense. Aeolian, so it's just another word for natural minor. So the randomizer knows what notes it can play, but so far I would still play all the notes in G minor, like all over the place, and I don't want that. So I go to the random section here, choose pitch, and tell the randomizer, please only play like 2 notes lower and 3 notes higher than the root note. And these are of course not half-tone steps, but notes of the scale. But how you set up, it's totally up to you. It's a matter of taste and what works in your track. So there is no one perfect option. So you have seen the MIDI modifiers and that there is a cool randomizer feature in it. What else can we do with it? I'll show you another example. Let's look at a simple piano part, like a chord track or something. And it's very often that we just write down the notes in the editor instead of playing them. And then it looks like this. You can see that everything is nicely on the grid and very stale. Even the velocity is always the same. You know, sometimes it's cool to do and sometimes no problem to do something like that. But in this case, it sounds really stale. It's the piano part. Listen. It could be a little bit more sound like a human playing, and we can do that with the MIDI modifiers as well. Let's do it together. We go to the MIDI inserts in the inspector and open MIDI modifiers. And here we are. This time I don't want to manipulate the pitch, but the position and the velocity. And again, it's a matter of trial and error. Just test what works best for you. Let's go a little bit extreme, like -50 and +100 or something. And the velocity, not so much. Let's make it a little quieter and only a little bit louder. So let's listen to the part again. Oh yeah. We've added a lot of human factor to the formerly very mechanical part. And if you're still not sure if you like it, you can always switch off the MIDI modifiers to compare the original part with the randomized one. So look, isn't it interesting that although I use a randomizer here, I still have to make many musical decisions myself? After all, I think a randomizer is just a tool, nothing different than a chorus or a delay. And talking about delays, there are effects like delays out there that use randomizers to create the delays, and not the normal way like quarter notes or milliseconds. And that's another good example where randomizers in music can be really helpful. Oh, and from one of my vital tutorial videos, I've linked that in the info cards and in the show notes, aka video description. We are using a randomizer too. It's another way to add movement to a synthesizer sound. Instead of a normal LFO that goes quite smoothly, we use a randomizer to create effects and modulations. And another one of my favorite uses for randomizers is when they're built in synthesizers to create presets. Like here in Pendulate, for example. You can see this button here, Randomize. It randomizes all parameter values, and that's a really, really cool way. I love to do that, to come up with unexpected and very unique sounds. Not all of them are really good in a traditional meaning. You know, sometimes we really need weird sounds, noises and stuff. And unfortunately, such randomizers are a bit out of fashion. Like 10 years ago, almost every synthesizer had a randomizer as an easy way to make your own presets. But today, I don't have many anymore. It's a shame. It's a shame, if you ask me. But now let's try it out. I always click 3 times and see what's coming out. 1, 2, 3. Funny. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. I think you get the idea, but now let's talk about a problem. I think you notice there can be a problem with randomized parts. Listen to the sequencer part again. And again. And again. It's always different. It's randomized. You never know what comes out in the final mix. It's always different. But there are 3 ways to live with that. First, you live with that. You accept the chaos. That's what I like to do. I like to do sometimes, not always. Sometimes I love to give away a little bit of control and accept the chaos in my music. But in case you don't want to accept the chaos, there are more things you can do. First thing is you could render in place. I only choose 4 parts as an example. You can render them in place. Now Cubase here creates an audio file of exactly this thing here. And now you can easily decide for the variations you like the most and cut them and glue them together, reorder them to create your perfect sequence. Any questions about render in place? Leave a comment down below. I don't bite. What else could we do? Well, I think we totally could use such a randomized part truly as an inspiration to compose in that way. The randomizer shows the way and I try to play like that. Something like this. I don't know, it's fun. And I want to show you one more option that's really important, really cool to nail the randomized part, make it a real one. In this case, even better, I think, than the render in place we've talked before. It's when you select your track with the sequencer part here and go to MIDI and then freeze MIDI modifiers. So you can immediately see that we have that everything has changed here. I need to deactivate the MIDI modifier now, because now we have all the random notes written in the editor. Sometimes such things happen here. Okay, but it's even easier to decide now what's going on, or we can totally change a note we don't like. So I think we've learned that working with randomizers in music doesn't mean we make random sounding music. You know, that would be a bad thing, like somebody who has no musical background and tries to write a melody. That often sounds really random and not good. Talking about melodies, I'm working on a melody tutorial for beginners. It's already in preparation, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and don't miss that. In case you watch this video a little later, I will link that video here in the info cards. And have you thought about the opposite of random music? It's when music is getting too predictable. That could also be a bad thing sometimes, not all the time. I mean, like in country western, you don't want to shock your audience with weird breaks and fancy chords. But in many other genres, you're, as a composer, really looking for a chord that's not too predictable, that's more exciting, more unique. And that's what makes composing quite difficult sometimes. But enough of that. Better let's talk about what randomizers are not good at. In my opinion, all the advanced stuff, like writing a really cool melody with only one click on the random button, or even writing whole songs with a randomizer. Even that is possible with some plugins. I have a plugin, it's called Insta Composer or something like that. I played with it. It's fun to play with it, and that's it basically. If you have no idea what you're doing, if you have no idea with music, better learn how to play a little bit on the keyboard, understand how chords work and rhythm works. Subscribe to my channel, you will learn all of that. But the idea of having one program where you click on a button and you have a really cool song or something, such a mentality is kind of weird in the first place. What can I say? Now shoot, leave a random comment in the down there. Also don't forget to like, because that's the easiest way to support me and the ground noise. That's this channel here. And also, if you don't mind, help to build a strong backbone for the channel by subscribing. Thank you very much. My name is Markus. You've been watching The Ground Noise, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.